I'm taking you off the air. I think you're having a breakdown. Require treatment.
The altered flow of the space-time continuum, save that it is spaceless and timeless. And I feel on the verge of some great, ultimate truth. And you will not take me off the air for now or for any other spaceless time.
If we consider reality itself to be the matrix or the screen, we find under careful examination two parallel narratives, two parallel streams of information in the screen or on the screen. One obvious, gross, easy to perceive, and one subtle, rare, more difficult to perceive. One stream of information in the lines of the story, and one between the lines of the story. One exoteric, one esoteric. One narrative that is presented to us, and a second narrative which is hidden from us. And this second narrative, this hidden, embedded stream of information that is not obvious, that is occulted and very subtle, is what all truth-type videos are, for the most part. And what we find in our research and decoding are basically three things. Three overarching themes, which aren't present or obvious in the surface narrative, or actually contrary to the surface narrative. The three overarching themes are A. The first is that nothing is ever what it seems. Reality is not what it seems. Like we're missing some essential component of reality itself. And everything that is conventionally taught, everything that is conventionally believed on literally every subject, everything we are taught by popular opinion is wrong. And not just wrong, but in some way almost exactly opposite the truth. The second thing, B, is that things are bad.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad.
And it turns out that things have been bad for a long time. But it also seems that even longer ago, things were good. But the entire reality, the entire world of men, which is reality, because if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, ... The whole world of men, every significant institution is willfully bad, willfully unfruitful, parasitic, purposely anti-human, purposely bad.
We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone.
And C, the third thing, is we are opposed by a monolithic entity. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. While on the surface the world appears to be ruled by competing nations, constantly battling for control, upon closer examination, we discover that this power struggle on the world stage is merely theater.
There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today.
There are no real conflicts, no real wars of any consequence, simply staged cullings, massive human sacrifice and historical demolition, scheduled and coordinated behind the scenes amongst the leaders of all sides. This is the inevitable conclusion of our research when we look at the world wars and Operation Paperclip, the big oil companies and banks with links to the Allies and the fascists, the contemporary world banking, financial systems. When we look at academia, the entire historical narrative, control of the media in every nation, religion.
There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars.
And not only do we find the governments and militaries of the world working in concert rather than in opposition, but we find that the institutions themselves of government and military function completely contrary to the stated aims presented to us by society and held to be self-evident by universal consensus. Government, rather than being a vehicle to reach consensus aims and enact those aims for the mutual benefit of humanity, instead acts as a divisive system of control. It acts to divide a population and thwart any effort to reach a fruitful consensus, formulate a common goal, and it acts to prevent any endeavor for the mutual benefit and fruitfulness of humanity. And complementing the civilian hemisphere of government is the military, which, rather than defending justice and the peaceful pursuit of our consensual and fruitful aims, as is widely believed, instead violently disrupts peaceful, consensual aims and enforces a non-consensual, unfruitful, wasteful allocation of energy and resources to the universal detriment of humanity. So, rather than government acting as a vehicle or machine to determine and enact the most fruitful, consensual aims of humanity, and military acting to protect that peaceful pursuit, Instead, we observe the exact opposite. Government acts to control, divide, and prevent the determination or enaction of goals which mutually benefit humanity, and military acts to destroy and consume energy, resources, and fruitful pursuits, and prevent mutually beneficial consensus, prevent cooperation, one world disorder. So, the question is this. If there are two stories, the fake one they tell us, and the true one hidden between the lines, the fake one on the surface and the true one beneath the surface, the two streams of information, and we also accept the three overarching premises of our research. A, things are never what they seem. B, things are bad.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad.
And C, we are opposed by a monolithic entity. The capitalists and the communists and the Democrats and Republicans and the constitutionalists and the fascists and Pepsi and Coke and Fox and CNN are all just faces of the same monolithic entity.
That is the natural order of things today. That is the atomic and subatomic and galactic structure of things today.
So, if everything is a lie and everything we are presented with all comes from the same one source, the monolithic entity, and that source is bad, then what makes the truth hidden between the lines any more valuable or significant than the fake story on the surface?
Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. Right now, there is an entire generation that never knew anything that didn't come out of this tube. This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube is the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world.
If everything is coming from a monolithic entity, all our information, then how can we discern any truth at all? Period. If all our information comes from one source, the monolithic entity, and is a lie, how can we discern any truth at all? Period.
You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
Because the whole world is North Korea. You don't think you live in North Korea because I took a trip to, I can get on a plane. I took a trip to Europe last year. My brother-in-law studied abroad in Australia. But that's the point of information control. You don't know what you don't know. And all our information comes from one source. But this is my explanation of how I think I can discern truth from lies. And you may disagree, but what I have observed is that the information the screen presents, the lies, are not created in any random, organic fashion. I have observed that the monolithic entity cannot create anything. Nothing new. Nothing new under the sun. I have observed that the lies are created in a mechanical fashion. And although it appears complicated at first, the formula is predictable. And after observing the mechanical process for some time, it actually becomes intuitive, and you to reverse engineer, untangle the stream of information, reverse engineer the information construct, the narrative presented by the monolithic entity. If instead of a mechanical monolithic entity, it were a human being telling us lies, telling us a story, we would have no hope of reverse engineering the truth from his lies, because a human being can produce the information completely organically, truly random, having no relation whatsoever to the truth, to whatever that useful piece of information is that we want. We can, on the other hand, do something to a human liar in order to cause them to produce the true, useful information which we want, which we cannot do to the screen, which is to threaten him physically, threaten to torture or kill him, or threaten him in some other way to cause him to produce the useful information. But even though we cannot threaten the screen, the monolithic entity, physically, I think there is an equivalent, an analogue to threatening to kill the screen, which is to withdraw our attention entirely, permanently. I think that threatening it and meaning it and intending it to withdraw your attention entirely, is the equivalent of threatening to kill the screen. Because it runs off your energy, your attention, like they show you in the Matrix, the human battery. It runs off the energy, the oil of the fish.
Are not always what they see. In fact, the message was this. So long, and thanks for all the fish.
So long, and thanks for all the fish. So sad that it should come to this.
And in its panic, the monolithic entity, in a last-ditch effort to extend its existence, may yield up some useful information to us, actually present it to us, just to hold on to our attention a little longer. Anything to just briefly prolong its existence.
And I said, Why me? And the voice said, because you're on television, dummy. And you will not take me off the air for now or for any other spaceless time.